Welcome back to Kanto Rider, where Honda made me pay for this if I wanted to do YouTube. So like and subscribe if you want more like this. Honda markets this as a road-focused bike. Naturally, we're going to keep it on the streets. I don't really see people doing true twisty roads on this bike, but I live in Japan where the roads twist more than what might even exist near you. So if it works here, it works everywhere. As I said in the other two videos, yes, I do notice the 21-inch front wheel. It does perform better than an Africa Twin. It does perform better than Tenerays. Watch out for monkeys. I don't like the Tenere. On the street, it's always falling over. This is not as bad. I would not do this on a Tenere. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying I can't. When I did do some turns, it did have that sudden, oh, I'm falling over of a 21-inch wheel. And what I realized was, first, if you just hold on, it goes a little further than it wants you to believe. And two, treat it like a dirt bike, not a sport bike. A sport bike, you lean it, you lean further. With a dirt bike, on the street at least, what I've always done is you counter lean. I had a cup of coffee, I'm warm, my batteries are warm, they won't die. This truck hopefully won't be right here forever. Practicing my counter leaning style, let's warm up these tires in a not at all warm mountain pass. There's a temple in the middle of some of the craziest, twistiest roads you can ever imagine, and we're just gonna go there. There is no quick shifter, but my MT's made me good at auto blipping, but I'm liking it more today than yesterday. Fresh cup of coffee, fresh sleep, fresh red lights, still red lights. All right, sport mode, first turn coming up, counter lean. It's all right. This is actually the perfect setting to tell you why I'm considering not keeping the MT-07. If you saw my Goodbye Tracer video, part of the issue was speed. It's just a bike that encourages me to do life-threatening things. When you're pushing your limits on the street, a mistake could be a car coming around the corner. It could be gravel into a concrete wall at 100. For racers, 100 kilometers an hour is not fast. But for the street and a concrete wall, there is no gear protective enough for that story. Counter lean and it goes far enough. Look how pretty Japan is, everyone, but I gotta look into the turns. I should have downshifted, but I didn't have to. Alright, Honda. I like the mirrors. I changed the mirrors on every bike I have, but I like these mirrors. Shrines and temples. This is faster than the MT, I think. But I will say, the MT-07, I actually go faster than on the Tracer, because if you look at the power to weight ratio, or at least the torque to weight ratio, it may be quicker. And being more of a sport bike, being lighter weight, it's more agile. I've scratched the pegs. I've slid more times on that bike than every bike I've ever owned or ridden times 4. I slide probably every time I ride it. And I have Michelin Row 5s. It's not like I got bad tires. I've got great suspension. I've got it dialed. But I just drift it all the time. I want to live longer. Another reason I sold the Tracer was for the kid, for money. I want to live for the kid too. I think I can ride this like a hooligan, but a hooligan with a long life expectancy. And this encourages me to ride safer, I think. The clutch and transmission are much smoother than the MT. I'm not going to say the throttle's more smooth than the MT, because every throttle's more smooth than the MT. When the MT turns off, it turns off. The brakes are optional on the rear. On the one hand, the suspension, the tube tires, there's a lot of things about this bike that tell you, oh, that's how Honda made it so cheap. But then the quality of the throttle, the quality of the transmission, the gears, everything else makes you think they might be losing money on this, because they're just so well done. But then again, it probably isn't made for this bike. They probably have already paid for those throttles and gears with the Africa Twin and just trickled it down, as they do, as many makers do. But Honda gets it perfect. Yeah, so these switchbacks, I definitely can't take them like I can on my MT, but I'm having fun, and I think I'm going to live long enough to come home. The suspension, for me, who is, I want to arrogantly say, above average, but by no means a pro. I mean, like, if the average is 50, I'm a 55, I'm a 60. I live on my bike, so I practice bad habits more frequently. But the counter leaning is definitely safer. See Ryan F9 for that. There's snow on the side of the road. Melting, but there. So there's still salt on the road. TC will help, but the suspension. I actually like the suspension on this. I don't think it's too soft. For the street, I don't think it's too soft at all. I don't think it's too hard. I think it's just right. I haven't adjusted anything. I'm 85 kilo if you ignore my gear. When I think I should be shifting up, I look at the RPMs and there's more. It is a sporty engine. It's not a deep, torquey engine. It doesn't lack torque. It's got some poke, but it goes. It's deceptively fast. As a street bike, this is actually fine. Going back to the suspension, something I like. My Tracer was my first bike with adjustable suspension. What I learned is if it's too hard, even with traction control, when you are too stiff of suspension, you hit a bump, there is no sag. So you're just not touching the ground. No traction control works in the air. So with all this sag, I forget how many centimeters or inches or whatever. Everyone uses different units, so you never know. Even if you get a bit of a bump, even if you get squirrely, the tire still has a lot of grace between the road and its limits. So it's always connected. And the traction control, I don't know if I've used it yet, but it's seamless if I have. Stock tires, very happy with on the street. I haven't used them in the wet. Hopefully that's just wet and not ice. The clutch is so light. When I was complaining about how it falls, like here, it's really not falling. I just need to carry more speed. That's great. We're talking about the safety of this bike. How do you make it safer? Go faster! You know, maybe I could actually lean in too. Yeah, I could. Not like an MT. I don't think of getting a knee down. If it's my bike, by the 10,000th kilometer, maybe I could scratch a peg. Everyone pretends they're a street Rossi. I'm actually wearing a Rossi hoodie under all this. If I ignore my Rossi hoodie and I'm just racing myself, if I'm just trying to have fun, this has plenty enough performance. I don't need different wheel sizes. I'm sure it'd be crazier with them, but I'm sure the bumps are nicer with the wheels as they are. This is a fine street bike. Not amazing, not a razor. It's not, it's not a Tracer. It's just not. In isolation, as all bikes should be looked at, it's very good. A friend of mine is getting his first ever bike, and he's trying to get something that's not too good to kill him, not too minimal that he'll want to replace it in like a year. And he lives in the States, so he needs enough power that the interstate's valid. What I told him is, if you get the bike, ride it for 2 days. Stay off the internet. Don't ride anything else. Don't sit on anything else. Don't look at anything. After your 2 days, if you like that bike, great. Comparison is the theft of joy, or however people say that. But it's true. My Tracer 900 was a perfect bike, and then I rode the new Tracer. I was like, oh, mine doesn't do this. It didn't have any vibration. It was smooth all the time. But then Ryan F9 made a video about how triples vibrate. So, actually triples, there's a bit of buzz that I never noticed. And I figured my hand pain must be from the vibration, the numbness. Couldn't be a wrist injury. It was a wrist injury. Now I can't go back to it because I've ridden so many other bikes, working for Yamaha, all those other bikes, watching YouTube about all these bikes. I need to get this bike. I need to get Öhlins front and rear. I need to get better tires, and I need to do the Paris-Dakar tomorrow. I never would go off-road. I'd never consider it if it weren't for the YouTube algorithm. And now I'm looking at this bike to still maybe never go off-road. But the point I'm getting at is that in isolation, this actually handles amazingly well on the turns if you ride it like you should ride this. Don't ride this like it's a sport bike. Ride it like it is, and it's plenty good. And it also doesn't encourage me to speed in this town. It encourages me to be reasonable, to be upright, to enjoy the view, to enjoy how beautiful this town that I've never been to is. Riding this bike by itself. If I then hop on my MT-07 immediately, this isn't on a needle like the MT, but if I ride this by itself, I don't know that this needs suspension now that I've ridden it. Is it going to keep up with those other firmer European bikes? No, but in isolation, look at this road. This stone-made road, this concrete stone road. It feels like a concrete stone road, but I can tell you I've ridden roads like this on my MT, and it sucks. If I got this bike, the main thing I would do is not pay attention to other bikes so that I can keep loving this bike. And then I'll modify it to make it even better. Like once it has the handguards for the winter, once it has the heated grips, cruise control, then my Transalp is the best. Not just a Transalp. Self-canceling turn signals, really just the cat's meow. Oh my goodness. Rest of the manufacturing world, I so naturally always want to just turn off my blinker. I'm trying to learn not to. Even as a road bike, if they did make it with the 17-inch wheels to try to compete with KTM's SMT, which really doesn't have competition, that plus cruise control, I might like it better, but I kind of like how I can definitely throw this thing around without feeling like I'm at the limit of my life expectancy. Feeling like I'll come home to my baby girl. Like my wife's not going to get that unfortunate phone call. Oh, I'm sorry, your husband won't come home. Oh no, what happened? He's a D-bag. Her never having that phone call would be great. And I think this bike would give that to her. Not to mention how comfortable it is for me and how comfortable it will be for a passenger compared to what I've had recently. We've determined that between babysitters and finances, my wife can't have a bike too for a little while. So if I have to have one bike, something like this might be smarter. I fully expected to make a video, Transalp sucks on the Twisty Mountains. Grr. No, this is great. I'm having fun. I could imagine losing my license on this. I don't know that I'd imagine losing my life on this. Michelin Anarchy Adventure tires, they're nearly as good on the street as Road 6's, but I can still look like I'm really adventurous when I go to Starbucks. You're eating trash out of a bag in the street. Make better life choices, Raven. I understand why Honda is selling these by the truckload. I really do. People who have multiple bikes, you don't have multiple bikes. You have the bike you're on right now, and then you have moments where you wish you were on the other bike. For those who can have one bike, you want to have fun in the twisties, you want to do a dirt road, you want to commute to work, a couple of mods, and this might be unbeatable. This view! I started this video at sea level. Good lord. We're like an hour and a half from my house. Why have I never been here? I always go an hour out of the city just to start riding. Why have I not known this? And the road's not closed like West Tokyo. There's no curfew. It's just a road. And it's nice. It's not garbage bumpiness. But if it was, I'm on the right bike. I don't want to say it's my favorite engine, but I'm tempted to say it's my favorite engine. The thing I love the most about the exhaust, partially this is being used to Yamahas. Yamahas make a solid welded exhaust. This exhaust, you can change the end can. I don't want to change the headers. I don't want to change the O2 sensor location. I don't want to reroute cables. I don't want to get an aftermarket catalytic converter to just trust that it's enough and not barely scraping by. I want a different end can. That's it. Maybe a sound change, though not on this bike. A little less weight. Just throw on an aluminum end can. That's a terrible Amazon special, so that when I drop the bike, I'm out $40 instead of $400. I understand people complaining about the ground clearance, but the weight of this bike, I'm not gonna go up the side of a rock cliff. I might find a dirt road. I don't even need a skid plate. I'll probably put one on because, again, what if my barista thinks I haven't gone up the side of a mountain? I can shift in the middle of a turn and the bike doesn't get upset. From 0 to 10, how good is this in performance on the street? I'll say 7. From 0 to 10, how fun is it on the street? I'll say about a 10. Would you have more fun on any other bike? Different fun. I don't know that more is the right word. This is where I wanted to go. Let's see if it was worth it. What does this say? It's a long walk. I don't know if I'm a walker. There's a closed gate. But this is where we're going. No, it's not. This is a graveyard. No, it's not. I don't know what this is. Either way, look how beautiful Japan is. Thank you for coming along. Let's hop off and stare at the bike while I have an outro. The Transalp you've seen a million times. Does it hold up to Japanese mountain roads? A real cool thing about it being factory new, see the remaining chicken strip? This was a brand new tire when I left. That's how far I can comfortably push this. This is the highway. That's how far I can push this. There's not too much further to push. Metzler, good job. Honda, great job. This is great. This is a street bike if you ride it like this. not like a super sport. It is, for the street, a perfect mid-weight adventure bike. For off-road, calling this a midweight is a misunderstanding of math. Between a 250 dirt bike and a GS, this is not the middle. Currently in the cities, that is the note. But back here on these roads, gosh, what a tremendous thing. By the way, this is mine. This is not Honda's, this is mine. So thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Thank you, Honda, for making this. For some reason, I'm feeling like I gotta ride a Cub. Why does the Cub sell more than any vehicle ever made? Goodbye. Fly me to the moon. Is this copyright if I sing myself? This is such a great bike. The MT I have to sell.